first thing I want to talk about is a question that came up last week, and I know that a couple of you in the group have experienced this in regards to setting up your account and initially using an LLC, a Wyoming LLC. We recommend that in our module training. But one of the challenges that everyone is encountering, or a few of you have encountered, is that the LLC is being used as well as the registered agent's address is being used as the home address for you all. I would advise against that. I've been in contact with Amazon. We've been going back and forth, and also in talking to other sellers that have encountered this challenge. The best way to handle this is, of course, you're going to list your LLC when you're registering with Amazon. However, as the home or the physical address of your business, you want to use your home address. So if you live outside of the United States, then definitely you want to use that address, because Amazon will ask for verification, will ask for proof, maybe a bill or something that that they can identify for your home address. So I would just I would use the home address as the physical address for your business, and that will solve the problems. So if you had your account temporarily suspended due to this issue, just go in, get in contact, update that address with your physical address, and that should get it all sorted out.
Good advice. Looks like we have a few different questions here. Rob Ogle said, I recently ran out of stock and my sales rank got worse. Any tips when I restock? Should I run a small quantity jump send promotion? Go aggressive on PPC? I would say once you get back in stock, I would just see what happens. I'd say part of the time, what I've experienced is that I'll quickly kind of like regain the rank or the keyword rank that I had before I went out of stock, and it's not that big of a deal. Other times it feels like it's a little bit harder, so I feel like I have to do a either go more aggressive on PPC or do one of those jump send promotions. So I'd say don't worry about it right now. Wait till you get back in stock, and then those are the different options that you have once you get back in stock.
All right, let's see what other questions we have. Looks like the next question: can I use a virtual wallet when setting up my Seller Central account?
I'm not sure what a virtual wallet is. Do you know, Rolando?
I can't seem to understand. Let me see. Seller Central account. I would just recommend. I'm imagining it's an online banking account. As long as the most important thing is that they do need a routing number as well as the bank account number. That's what's important, because that's where your deposits are going to be coming in as that money starts rolling in. So you definitely need an account number with a routing number. That's what they're going to request as you're setting up your account.
Dan, if you want to tell us what a virtual wallet is, then I'm happy to help more. Dan said, I have lots of questions. Good. We need lots of questions.
Keep dropping them.
Rob said, do you have any experience with ManyChat, and what is it? Rolando, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, absolutely. So ManyChat is going to automate responses via Facebook Messenger in particular. So ManyChat is a great way to start building a list and start acquiring customers off of Amazon. Because one of the challenges that you're going to face is that, of course, Amazon, you have all these customers coming through buying your product, but you never have a way to remarket to them or run a promotion to them again. They're pretty much, there's no way to contact them. So what ManyChat is used when it comes to your seller account is creating landing pages where you're driving paid traffic to a landing page. And ManyChat is just automating that conversation where you're not having to be in Messenger responding to everybody. So you create these flows with ManyChat. It's like a conversational flow, and that alleviates that part of the problem. And then, like I said, you could just do some list building off of Amazon.
Cool. Looks like the next one is from Angela. She said, does Amazon carry out the drop test on the individual product or the shipping carton? Does Amazon do the drop test for all items, or do they only do the drop test on fragile items? I don't think Amazon actually does the drop test on really like any items. they use that as a descriptor of like how it should be packaged when you send it in. And they would be talking about the individual items, not the shipping carton. So yeah, it's think of it more as kind of like a rule of thumb or not a rule of thumb, but like a guidelines of how things should be packaged so they would be able to withstand like that kind of drop test. And I guess the idea is if they're walking around the warehouse, they drop it from waist height or whatever, hits the ground. The idea is that it doesn't burst open or break, that instead they can pick it back up and put it in kind of in the shipping carton.
All right. Looks like Angela has the next question as well. Does a bubble wrap bag need the same label as the poly bag if opening is wider than 5 inches?
I think the answer to that is yes, that it doesn't matter what kind of plastic bag it is. If it's a plastic bag, it needs that suffocation warning on it.
All right. Dan asks, can I sell the same thing that Amazon sells?
Take it away, Rolando.
Yeah, in regards to like Amazon Basics, like their brand, you absolutely can. And a lot of times people are a little intimidated when Amazon enters their niche or their particular niche, but it's actually pretty good to have that type of competition. You just always want to make sure that you level up, right? That you do what we talk about in our training and make sure that you have a better offering in some way, shape, or form. Whether that is just better branding, because let's face it, when I buy like Amazon products, Amazon Basics, the branding isn't all that great. It's very generic looking. So if you could kind of just make your product look a little more premium quality, then hands down you'll beat Amazon.
All right. Rob said, when launching a variation, is it better to set it up as its own listing to take up more real estate, or just as you would a normal variation? And this one comes down a little bit to personal preference. Typically, I would recommend launching it as a variation on that particular product. The reason for that is it's usually a little bit easier to get them started, because when you launch a brand new variation, it doesn't have any reviews. It's usually pretty tough to get those initial sales, to get those initial reviews. Whereas if you launch it as a variation, they typically show with the reviews that are already on that listing. There is a way to actually split them up later. It doesn't always work like it used to, but you typically still can. The easiest way to do so is something called a flat file upload, and I can show you how to do that at some point. But as a general rule of thumb, I would probably launch it as a variation.
All right. Looks like Dan has the follow-up. It looks like it's related to the virtual bank. He's talking about physical banks are closed. So yeah, as long as virtual banks are fine, as long as it, like I said, as long as you have that mechanism, and most even virtual bank accounts will have an account number along with a routing number tied to it. And that's the information that Amazon will seek.
Rob says, how do you prepare for Prime Day in Q4? Do you start to ramp up on PPC a week before to get better ranking on keywords, lower price, increase sales velocity? You don't necessarily. So that is kind of like a rule that some people go by, is they want to really focus on making sure that they are ranked well prior to that additional traffic. To be completely honest with you though, like for Prime Day, pretty much everything sells well for those essentially 2 days now. And during those 2 days, you will have like double or triple sales, or, it depends what you're selling, but it will sell much better. That being said, it is only 2 or 3 days worth, or 2 days worth of sales that maybe is equivalent to 1 week's worth of sales. So I wouldn't put too much money or effort kind of like trying to artificially increase your ranking to be kind of ready for those days. Instead, what I'd focus on or make sure that you do is your inventory planning, estimate how much inventory you're going to need for that time frame, make sure you're in stock, because I think that's the biggest thing. I guess the only other thing I would say is, especially on Prime Day, budgets for PPC usually run out pretty early in the day. So either A, increase your budget to make sure that it doesn't run out, or B, you could actually pause your budget or pause your PPC campaigns in the morning, and then the afternoon, a lot of people's campaigns have run out of budget because there's a lot more click traffic on those days.
All right. Angela has the next question. She's asking, when creating a shipment plan, if my freight forwarder is taking my shipment directly to Amazon and it is LTL, do I then choose Amazon partnered carrier or other carrier? And if I choose Amazon partnered carrier, am I just assuming that my freight forwarder will use an Amazon partnered carrier? What happens if my freight forwarder does not use an Amazon partnered carrier? Now, ideally, what you want to do is definitely use Amazon's partnered carrier service, because you're going to get a brokered deal between, say, like UPS and Amazon, and so it's very it's much more beneficial to you to use the Amazon partnered carrier program. So what happens is your freight forwarder will be responsible to bring it all the way through customs, bring it, and they may have a warehouse, say for example in Los Angeles, and Amazon will coordinate with your freight forwarder to just go and pick it up at that particular warehouse. So yeah, they shouldn't. Your freight forwarder will not work with Amazon in the sense of they won't set that up for you. You need to set that up, but they will always allow for that Amazon to come and pick up your product at their warehouse.
One thing to add to that, Rolando, I'm pretty sure that the Amazon partner carrier is if you want to pay for the LTL shipment through Seller Central. So you're paying Amazon and then they're paying the trucking company to handle that for you. If you don't want to purchase the shipping services through Amazon, that's when you select the other carrier - other, like you mentioned there. If you want to use Amazon's essentially trucking services or who they have contracts with, that's when you do the Amazon partnered carrier.
All right. Bahar has the next question. Hi, and thanks for all your support. I have a few questions about creating listings. Awesome. It looks like we got, and here's the question. First, is the keywords on the title are more effective to rank than the keywords on the description? And I kind of touch on this, and you could give your 2 cents as well, Greg. But yes, you do want your most critical and your main keyword, I should say, should be in your title. What's very important when you're creating your listing is you also need to realize a lot of people do keyword stuffing, and that's a no-no. Remember, at the end of the day, you want it to be legible and read, be able to be easily read by a customer, because on the other side of this, there's a customer. So I think what people forget is they just keyword stuff and they put all types of keywords in their title and description, but that may draw them initially, but you want to cause a conversion, and a conversion only happens is if it's a good user experience on the other end. So I think that yes, definitely put your most critical keywords starting at the title, and then getting into your bullet points, then your description, and then ultimately your backend search terms. So whatever remains and just does not fit into your description, your title, or in the bullet points, it might be a word that just doesn't jive in terms of creating a nice sentence structure, then you would put that in the backend search terms.
All right. Rob said, thoughts on selling products related to COVID? For one, any products that are kind of COVID related, like the mask or the hand sanitizer or other items like that, Amazon now has a process to apply to be, I forget what it's called, like a licensed or certified COVID carrier or whatever it is. So you do have to go through that process. I don't know for sure what it entails. These products have extremely high sales volume right now, as you can imagine. So my thoughts on it, it's like if you have access to these types of goods, like if you have access to face masks or you have access to good hand sanitizer, and you can and you apply to be one of these registered COVID carriers or whatever, you get accepted, then I think it's probably a good opportunity. Keep in mind that it is only going to be for a window of time. I don't think anyone really knows how long that window is. But yeah, keep that in mind. So those are my thoughts on it. Anything else you want to add, Rolando?
No, I think that should cover it there. Pulgin says, hi, I'm here, and I thought it was Central Time. Typically, we will always use Eastern Standard Time just because it's the more commonly used. If we can, I guess we could put different time frames as well. But we are headquartered in, and I guess the confusion is that we are headquartered in Austin, Texas. But usually for calendar events, we'll use Eastern Standard Time. In addition to that, I don't know if you're able to share your screen, Greg. Kind of wanted to show the schedule, the lineup of the. I know this is a big question that we've been having: is when will the next Facebook Live event happen? So if you wouldn't mind showing them.
Let me pull it up real quick, Rolando. You want to take the next question while I pull that up?
Yeah. And basically, when just to mention where it's going to be at the very start, like where it says start here, the very first module is where you're going to find that. All right. So Dan asks, can I sell brand named items like Colgate or Tide without being a wholesaler? Yes, you can. You have to be very careful, however. There are certain brands that are restricted that you cannot sell. And so for this is what we call retail arbitrage. So you're finding products at a discounted price. Typically, when you're talking about wholesalers, right, they buy in bulk of a particular product. Retail arbitrage is a little different, where you might find a couple of one-offs of different products. What you'll want to do is you'll want to use the Amazon Seller Central app. The app is pretty powerful because you could actually enter and you could scan a product. Let's say that you found some clearance products. You could scan a product or enter a barcode, and it will tell you if it's restricted or not in terms of the brand. Certain brands do have restrictions that their products cannot be sold. So yeah, just be mindful of that. Use the Amazon tool, and you'll be good. You'll be in good shape.
Cool, Rolando. I'll show. You were talking about the schedule for the live sessions, right?
Correct.
Cool. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and hop right in here. So I'm inside Freedom Builder Bootcamp. If you click over here on the left where it says start here, and then scroll down, we have the schedule for all the live coaching sessions right here. So, yep. So here we are today, 1 p.m. Eastern time. And you'll be able to find all of them right here. And we usually are good about mentioning them in the Facebook group as well. So that's a good place to go for updates.
Awesome. All right. So it looks like next question, Pulgina has the next question. If I am planning to sell in Mexico, does Amazon translate my listing, or do I need to create my listing in Spanish also? Yes, you would need to create the listing in Spanish. They do not translate, so you would definitely need to create the translation. And typically in these markets, you're not going to have Spanish and English, it's always the main language that you're going to be creating your listing from. So you're gonna have to do keyword research for that particular product in Spanish, because that's the natural search that people will be doing. So that's very important that you conduct the keyword research, much like you would do on the US platform.
All right, next one says, hello guys, good to see you. I want to know the right steps of when I should apply for brand registry, create a listing, etc. Should I wait until the product is being shipped from the supplier? So let's see, there's a few different ones here. As far as applying for brand registry, you can't do so until you've registered for a trademark. So you can use the IP Accelerator program, which we talk about in the Freedom Builder Bootcamp. That would help you do it sooner. I would say of those, let's see, I guess you asked for two: when to apply for brand registry and when to create a listing. Of those two, I would say creating a listing is more important, but like you mentioned, you don't really have to do that until it's being shipped from China or while it's being manufactured. So that's usually the slowest part, is placing that order with the factory and getting it shipped into the US. So yeah, that's a great time to create your listing. That can also be a time that you register your trademark and go through the accelerator program is probably what I would recommend. And yeah, That's what you do. Kim said, I'm
Thanks,
having
Kim.
problems with the Jungle Scout extension. My trial expired today, but I don't want to cancel. What I would recommend, Kim, is just to reach out to support. They're really good at figuring out all these problems. It's usually a conflict with another extension you have installed. That's where we see a lot of the problems come from. And they can help you troubleshoot that, figure out what's wrong, and help you get it fixed and get it working.
Keep in mind also, just to add to that, as a Freedom Builder Bootcamp member, you should have a year subscription to the extension as well as to the web platform. So you definitely, yeah. So it should not expire on you.
Cool. Kim's next question is: I live in Canada, plan to send in the US. Should I register my brand in the US or Canada? It actually is fairly easy to register your brand in both places after you've gotten your trademark, whether that's in Canada or in the US. It actually doesn't really matter. After that, it's you don't have to have a trademark in all those different countries. You only have to have it in one of these kind of approved countries, and then you're able to register for brand registry in all of them.
All right. Angela asks, do I need to purchase an accounting system? If so, what do you recommend?
Yeah, I think this depends a lot on kind of A, probably how big your business is, and B, kind of like what level of detail you would like to look at it. It also kind of depends whether or not you have other business income coming in from other places. If you do have other business income, something like QuickBooks or Xero tends to work pretty well. If this is your only business that's just on Amazon, a lot of people just use the sales analytics functionality inside of Jungle Scout. With that, you can create a P&L statement, and that's something that you could hand over to your accountant or when you're doing your own taxes. So yeah, it kind of just depends which of those fits best for you.
Okay. When Shet asks, I already have an LLC set up. Do I still need to buy a domain? Now, my recommendation is you buy the domain for the brand that you potentially are going to do a brand registry with and that you will be trademarking. You don't need to buy a domain for the LLC itself in terms of what Rolando Galeana LLC, let's say. You don't need a domain for that. But definitely I would recommend, it's just good practice to buy a domain for the brand that you have in mind. Because domains are hard to come around. And I think that one of the first checks that you should make when you're creating your brand name is to make sure that that domain is available, because it lends for you to be able to scale your business down the road. And one of the options may be that you do one of these strategies of building a website for your particular product and drive paid traffic to it down the road, or whatever the case may be. So just begin with the end in mind.
All right. Next one says, can you explain about these fields on listing creation, part numbers, and minimum manufacturer age recommended? So depending on what category you're listing in, there's all kinds of different fields, and most of them are optional. So if they're optional, don't really worry about it, depending on what category you're in. So for example, minimum recommended age, if you're in the like any kind of children's product, that will be required. And the requirement there is because there's different age brackets of when they can choke on things or however else the rules are structured. So I guess the short of it here is just answer it to the best of your ability, and really you can just make up like a manufacturer's part number.
Okay. Pulgin asks, if I have my own 18-wheeler trucks, wow, pretty cool. Can I take my product from the port to the Amazon FBA warehouse by one of my drivers? Now, one of the challenges that you're going to have here is that as you're creating your shipping plan, Amazon is going to designate the distribution centers that they're going to use, the fulfillment centers they're going to use. So in essence, you probably won't be able to, in regards to, they generally don't pick the warehouse that's closest to a Los Angeles port, let's say. Typically, they distribute the product throughout the United States. They might, in one instance, be Florida might be one of the fulfillment centers, and New York might be another fulfillment center that they're going to have. And they're typically going to split it up into, I've always seen a minimum of 3 fulfillment centers. And so that's going to be the challenge that you're going to face by shipping it yourself. And I imagine if you can bring it across country and you can create the shipping plan, then you probably can pull that off. But the first step is making sure you create that shipping plan to determine which fulfillment centers Amazon is going to designate.
All right. Next question here is, oh man, we got a lot of questions, huh? We're gonna have to speed up on our answers a little bit.
Wow. Yeah. Good guys. Awesome.
Can you show us how the Jungle Scout Inventory Manager works? I can do like a quick little demo, and then we have a module. Do we have a module on the Inventory Manager in FBB, Rolando?
We don't. It's something that we will have. And one thing that, if you see the post that's in our Facebook group, please go in there and drop ideas of content that you'd like to see in the future. That's one that we definitely have in mind to just dive deeper into and give you more answers.
Yeah, but the short of it is, after you enter your lead times, this is showing you a number of different things right here. So if I know you can't see my mouse, but over here on the left-hand side, it's like, if I want, or if I kind of think the sales in the past 30 days are normal, then I would use this number, and this is the amount of quantity that's recommending for me to reorder and the date for me to do so. Now, this particular product's a little bit more difficult because it's very seasonal, and these past few months have been the slow season, so it hasn't been selling very well the past few months. As you can see right here, that started to pick up as the weather's getting a little bit warmer. People are going out to start to cook. So if I want to use a longer time frame of what normal kind of shipping is, then I could look at it like down here. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's the gist of how it works. Just to kind of be careful about how much time we're spending on this. We'll do like a more in-depth one and put inside the Freedom Builder Bootcamp.
All right. And it looks like Plugin is just kind of adding to Rob's question. If we could get a PDF with the instructions on how to handle inventory. Yes, we could do that. We can create some type of PDF, just kind of a little more step-by-step. And looks like continue to add to that. Plugin is, all the course is great, but some of the modules are very important and could be awesome if we could have additional crucial instructions in a written explained PDF or with more bullet points, maybe step by step. As you all know, there are some downloadable PDFs, more so outlining what's being discussed, but we could add to that as well and give it more of a step by step process when we come to these different modules. So yes, we could arrange for that. Freedom Builder Bootcamp, as you all know, is a relatively new course that first time Greg has ever done anything like this, and so it's it's very awesome to have him here joining us with these live events, and as you can see, being coached by Greg, and so we want to make sure that all we want is for you to succeed as an Amazon seller. So whatever we can do to help you achieve your goal, we're open to it.
Next question we have in here is, how do I find out if a product on Amazon is unavailable to sell, either because it's trademark or a name brand that I need permission to sell? How you find out whether or not Amazon will let you sell it is you go into Seller Central, you click on add a product, and you try to add the product. Now, if you try to add it and it doesn't let you, then it will tell you that you need approval or you have to submit documents before you can sell that product. So essentially that's how you know whether or not Amazon will let you do it.
Okay. Angela, I believe, is the next question. And are long-term search fees charged after 6 months or 12 months?
I think she meant storage fees, and it's both 6 and 12 months. 12 months, the storage fees are higher than at 6 months. Rob said, how's your wife's Amazon business going? It's going really good. She ran out of inventory for a lot of stuff because during COVID, her sales spiked a lot, so she wasn't planning on all those additional sales. So I think she's frustrated that she's out of stock with a lot of stuff, but hey, she's out of stock because it's selling like crazy and it's hard to keep in stock.
Rob has a follow-up question there. I hired a packaging designer from the Jungle Scout Market, and now they are using my product to showcase their work. How can I get them to remove it? First, of course, just reaching out to them directly and just asking them if they could go ahead, if they could respect your wishes and remove it. If that doesn't work, please just reach out to support@freedombuilderbootcamp.com, and we could see we can look into that for you. But if they were on the Jungle Market, then I'm pretty sure that they'll be respectful and remove it. You just talk to them directly.
Next one is, can my husband and I use the same account of Jungle Scout? Because we try to use the same one, we always get kicked out. Yeah, so let me show you how to add an additional user, because if you try to share login credentials, for security reasons, it kind of kicks people out. But go to settings over here, and then go to user and team management, and then you're actually able to invite additional users up here in the left. So that's how you can add additional people to your account, so both you and your husband could use it.
Dan asks, is it difficult to become a wholesaler? And the way I look at it in terms of when selling on Amazon, I think you start with retail arbitrage. That's going to be the easiest market to get into. It's it's not going to be as much of a challenge there. And then it goes into wholesaling. And then I would say FBA is a little more time consuming because you're creating a product, or you're private labeling a product. So I would say that that's the hierarchy. So wholesaling is kind of like in the middle. It tends to be not as difficult, but at the same time, FBA, it's like that risk reward. You're not going to get as much of a benefit in terms of what your profit or your ROI is going to be on that product. Same as you go down that scale, and retail arbitrage, your profits are going to start dwindling down. Private label is where it's at because of the margins are better. So that's the way I look at
that. Next one says, if people in the USA that have chosen to have their Amazon website in Spanish because they mainly speak Spanish, do you suggest they also translate a list used in the US in order for the customers to speak Spanish can find it also? Using Spanish keywords in your listing or bidding on Spanish keywords is a good strategy to help get additional sales. If you look in Keyword Scout, you'll see there is search volume for some of the Spanish phrases. Angela said, in Seller Central, what's the difference between suppressed and inactive? Suppressed means that it either Amazon has suppressed it for a number of different reasons, or you haven't listed or sent an inventory for the first item yet, whereas inactive or out of stock means just that it's out of stock.
Rob asks,
what's that?
Rob asks, when doing your taxes, how do you pay yourself? As an employee, every 2 weeks, or dividends?
This is really kind of comes down to I guess the differences here are what kind of business entity you have and the tax treatment associated with them. So I'd have to learn a little bit more about your business to kind of make a recommendation there. Yeah.
Yeah, we have to add a disclaimer. We are not tax accountants nor attorneys, but we give as much information as sellers as possible.
Next one. They told me it's cheaper to send merchandise through Long Beach instead of Galveston. Do you think it is the same? So first of all, you have to send your inventory into whatever distribution centers Amazon tells you to do so in your shipment plan. after you know where you're required to send your shipments into, after that, like you can ask your freight forwarder for different quotes for the different places, and then yeah, I mean it's kind of at that point kind of up to them or what quotes they give you for what the prices are.
Pegeen says, "Sorry, my brain never stops." That's awesome. Always exercise the mind.
All right, Kim said, I'm doing my product research. The cumulative average sales are more than 3,000 per month in the top 10 listings. All other criteria are good. Is it considered good demand? Yeah, that's considered good demand. If all the other criteria is good and the total sales are 3,000 per month, that's strong demand on Amazon.
Hey neighbor, Winnichet says that we live in the same city.
Angela said she is excited to see the live coaching dates for the rest of the year. Good, I'm happy to hear it. Pulgwin said again that it'd be nice to have some PDFs to help with some things. Thank you for that feedback. We'll look into seeing kind of which modules we could create some helpful PDFs for. I know there's a few for some modules, but we'll see if we can create some more. Sandy said, I purchased a product from Alibaba to sell on Amazon, but because of the current COVID situation, the amount that I purchased is too much. Is it possible for me to sell a portion of my product to another person? Would they be able to sell it on Amazon? Sure, you could sell a portion of it to another person. If it is the same UPC and the same brand, they would be able to sell it on your listing. So that wouldn't really do you any good because then they would essentially just be competing with you for the buy box. If they sold it under a different UPC and a different brand, then they'd be competing for you in the search results. Probably what I would do is I would just store part of it at your house. It'll take maybe longer to sell. I don't know exactly what your product is, but for example, if it's, let's say like a wedding gift or something, like most weddings have been postponed due to COVID and kind of indefinitely. So for something like that, that it definitely is too bad. But I'd say demand for all this stuff's going to pick up at some point. Like life will return to normal at some point. I don't know for sure kind of how long that will be, but I would probably just store it and kind of accept the slower sales right now.
Dan asks, would either of you guys ever entertain the idea of taking on a joint ventured partner as an investor for one product at a time? My personal experience, I try to stay away from partnerships. Mm-hmm. Because I have in the past, and I've been burned by partners. So it's I guess to each their own. I know I would say my wife is my business partner and everything, and so that's probably.
Partnerships are tough. That's a good reminder, Orlando, that entering into a partnership is actually like entering into a marriage. So they need to be considered very carefully. Me right now, I am 100% focused like on my own Amazon business, on Freedom Builder Bootcamp and Jungle Scout. So for me, there's enough irons in the fire, as they say, that personally right now I'm not interested in it.
Not to say that a partnership isn't a good idea, is a bad idea for everyone. Because it might be a way to raise capital for someone that wants to get started and has a product in mind and has a very reliable partner, a business partner, then that's just maybe like a silent partner that's just funding the venture, then that's not a bad idea. But it just depends on, you got to realize that you'll be doing all the work and they're funding it, and you got to be very clear and specific and draw contracts on that.
Bahar said, on my Seller Central account, I can see the US market, Canada, and Mexico. Does that mean I can sell in those as well? Yes, Amazon has something called like the Unified North America account. I kind of forget because it's been a really long time. You might have to fill out some additional fields or give some additional information to sell in those areas. But yes, you could sell in all three of those marketplaces and access them through the same Seller Central UI.
All right. Looks like Rob's asking, Greg, how long did it take for you to quit your 9-to-5 job when you started on Amazon?
I think it took about a year and a half. So these things don't happen overnight. Polgwin just said, though, I quit 6 weeks ago and I plan to launch my first product tonight. Congratulations. That's amazing. Really happy to hear it. let us know how it goes. It's really fun hearing all these success stories and all these businesses get started. It's awesome.
Pilgrim asks, is the ASIN number the same as the FN SKU?
No, the ASIN is essentially an alphanumeric string that Amazon assigns to your product in their catalog. And this is something that kind of the public can see in that it shows up on a Amazon listing. The FNSKU or FNSKU is
What'd you say, Greg?
is the number or the barcode that essentially goes on the packaging, so that in Amazon's warehouse they know that this product belongs essentially to your account. So that's kind of the differentiator there, and they're not the same thing.
Joel asks, I live in the UK. The UK market is relatively smaller than the US. What monthly sale would you consider good demand when doing product research?
At the end of the day, we're always just looking for the differential of the products that have the highest demand with the least competition. I mean, if that type of product's selling 1,000 or 2,000 units a month, is still very strong demand. It's more so you need to be thinking about, how much of that demand could I capture?
Dan asks, do I always have to make changes to a product for it to be acceptable to Amazon? Or is it okay to just make a change to the listing, pics? I don't want to reinvent all products, maybe bundle. And to answer to that is, yes, you can do pure private label for the sake of private label. Now, we recommend to make some changes because of course you want to be able to stand out among your competition. You want to have some key differentiators. That's why like a bundle offering that goes a long way. Definitely your listing is the most critical component of this piece. You want your product to be appealing. You want, of course, your copy, what we call your title, your description, bullet points. You want that to be appealing. So the real estate that Amazon gives you, you definitely want to knock it out of the park and really focus and hone in on that. That will help. That will go a long way. But definitely having some key differentiators always helps as well.
Sandy said, continued question from the one above. So this is my first shipment to Amazon. Do they require any documentation that the other person would not have because they purchased it from me and my business purchased it from the supplier? So all the documentation shows my business name. Short answer is no. That the way Amazon's structured is, as a general rule of thumb, anybody can sell on any listing on Amazon. You don't necessarily need to be the manufacturer of that product to sell on that listing on Amazon. So they don't require documentation to prove that you're the manufacturer per se.
All right, I think we left off at Sandy. Sandy asks, continued question.
But that's the one I just answered.
Oh, so we're getting down to the end of it. Wow.
Yeah.
Kim asks, in the product research, if all the criteria are met, but the product I'm researching is more than one page, should I still consider it? I'm not sure. Do you understand that question, Greg?
I think she's saying that it meets all the criteria that we laid out, but there are multiple pages of a similar product for sale. And it's really hard to kind of give advice on this, Kim, without seeing exactly your type of product. What I would think about is, a good way to do it is think about it like this. If you were a consumer and you search for that product, do they all look the exact same and you don't know which one to pick because that's pretty much all the same thing? Or are there little differences like different colors, or this one's more heavy duty or whatever else? So you have to be thinking about, if you were a consumer, is there anything that kind of like differentiates or would make someone want to purchase your product instead of something that's already there?
All right. Again, just adds that thanks for the ASIN info. I have my list in draft to publish tonight, but my husband is in charge of the details of the list, so I was confused. Thanks a lot.
Sure thing.
Awesome. Teamwork.
Bahar said, you gave us a listing review as part of being an FBB member. Thanks for that. You're very welcome. Is there any PPC help too? Rolando and I and the other kind of admins of FBB try to do as much as we can to kind of help you with your business. Probably the best thing to do is to post those questions in the Facebook group. The reason that we really love doing that is then like if you have this question, I'm sure a lot of other people have this same question, and this way they can see the help that we're giving. So I would like post a little screenshot and post the questions in there. That's the best way. You can of course always email us if you want as well, but yeah, it's really nice to be able to answer questions and also help other people at the same time.
Yeah, I've had Rob drop some pretty advanced PPC questions. He could attest to this. I just go in there and answer as often as I can. Go in there and answer any questions you may have. And then, of course, like Greg says, there's support at Freedom Builder Bootcamp if you have information that you don't want to share publicly. Rob asks, he's saying, yes, please release a more advanced module on PPC. We definitely have that in the pipeline.
Good feedback. The next one says, there's a patented product but sold by many sellers. Is that okay to consider? Patent law gets very complicated. There's different types of patents. There's like design patents as well as utility patents. Design patents aren't real defensible. You can make small changes and then sell something similar. What you also have to understand is a lot of times there's just a small piece of a product that's patented. So I guess that's a long way of saying that it's very complicated and it really depends. I wouldn't assume that just because other sellers are selling it, that it's safe for you to sell it as well. Instead, probably what I'd recommend is you research the patent a little bit deeper and see exactly what's patented and make sure you're not infringing on it. But this gets into just like a pretty gray area that's usually kind of a hairy situation. The only way to know for sure is to hire a lawyer, but unfortunately that's pretty costly to hire them to kind of do this patent research for you.
Okay, Kim says, thank you. Bulgina asks, one more question, and I will let everybody ask. My question is, it looks like Canada is automatically added in my profile. Does that mean today when they pick up my product to send it to Amazon FBA warehouse, are they going to send it to Canada and the USA? Is Amazon decision to what country to send it to? No, if you have to, in a way, log into each country and create a shipping plan within each of those countries. Although you have access to them and you can sell in those countries, it is treated separately as far as where your shipment's going to go. It's going to go to one of the fulfillment centers here in the United States if you're using the US platform. Bahar says, thank you. Angela asks, I live in Australia. I recently opened an Amazon Australia account, but a week later it was deactivated and I'm having difficulty having Amazon reactivated. Are you able to help? Now, to answer that, typically when it comes to working directly with Seller Central, we have very limited access. Unfortunately, it's going to come down to you communicating directly with them. We can help in terms of give guidance and maybe how to reach out to them. But ideally, what you want to do is just either call directly or email, because those are the only two options that you really have when it comes to trying to work this out with Amazon. Yeah,
and Amazon can be very frustrating to deal with. Their support for sellers is kind of crap. It feels like you're talking to a robot sometimes. Unfortunately, there's no good way around it. Like, not even people who work at Amazon get better support. It's so siloed and they try to be so careful that like they can't do each other favors inside of Amazon and stuff, that there's no real workaround. It unfortunately is just kind of like a part of the beast and there's not too much that we or kind of anyone else can do. One thing I wanted to show real quickly, because you were asking about, do they send in shipments to other countries? One thing that is good to do is go into your settings and go to Fulfillment by Amazon, scroll down and make sure that your export settings, FBA export from Amazon.com, is enabled. What that does is that actually allows people from, say, Mexico or Canada or someone else to buy your goods from Amazon. It counts for you just as a sale, but then they would have to pay like the additional shipping or importing fees or whatever else. So for you, that doesn't matter. But this will help you get additional international sales. So that's a good thing to do.
Yeah, great call. Good hack there. Next, we've got Dan. He's saying, it's good to see the two of you are safe and healthy. Please keep posting value. Absolutely, we will continue. And says, I'd like to be successful very soon. And Dan, it's all about, just keep doing what you're doing, keep hustling, keep grinding. You will get there. The way I see it is that the only people that fail at this are the people that give up. My hope is that through the mentorship and the community that we're building here, no one quits, no one gives up, and we just keep, moving forward.
Next one is Peter said, what taxes do I need to pay being the only person on the LLC? And if I'm not mistaken, I'm not a tax attorney, but if it's a single member LLC in the US, it's referred to as like a disregarded entity. So essentially the profits of that entity are treated as income and you would owe income tax on that. So if you have $100,000 worth of sales, $50,000 worth of expenses, that would mean you made $50,000 profit that year. So you'd have to pay income tax at the normal income tax rates on that $50,000.
Kim says, I didn't know JS is in Vancouver too. Can you say yeah, that we have offices in Vancouver and Shenzhen, China, and Austin. But at the moment, most everyone's working remotely due to...
Everyone's working from home, yeah. So now we have offices everywhere. I guess we should just get rid of those offices and just all stay remote forever. Save a bunch of money.
Yeah, live that digital nomad life.
Yeah.
Pulgain, I thought you weren't going to ask. No, just kidding. She has a question in here regarding the samples. Any idea to bring cheaper samples? Because a lot of sellers are telling me that it's very expensive to ship samples on this dates. Cheaper samples. Unfortunately, the cost. I don't know if you've ever shipped. If you're getting your shipment from China. If you've ever shipped a product or something to China, you'll notice that a lot of it is the shipping cost is what they're putting into the sample cost. And that's why it gets very expensive. I've had to ship, a product sample for a manufacturer so that they can kind of get the idea of what I'm going for like a 3D print rendering. And just the shipment alone was insane. So I think that's what they're trying to avoid is, having to eat the cost of the shipping. The sample itself is typically not charged. It's not that expensive of a sample.
Great. Well, we are out of questions and it's also about the top of the hour. So we'll go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you all so much for all of the questions that you've submitted. This is always a highlight of the week or the month for me to get a chance to interact with all of you. It's also always good to chat with you, Rolando. So thanks a lot for your help. And any housekeeping things to wrap this up?
I think we covered it. You know where to go now as far as finding out where the schedule is. Just remember that's at the Start Here module. And other than that, just keep crushing it, Freedom Builders.
Thank you all very much. It's been fun, and we will see you next time. Adios. Bye-bye.